Disruption isn't just Silicon Valley. One of history's greatest revolutions wasn't chips or AI. It was steel reshaping entire nations. Steel built America's bridges, its tanks, its skyscrapers. For decades, big steel's giants forged the backbone of modern civilization. By 1945, America produced 62% of the world's steel, a staggering dominance that crowned U.S. Steel the undisputed titan. But empires never last forever. As profits swelled and complacency spread, the first cracks in Big Steel's mighty fortress appeared. The challenger didn't come from mines or coal. It came from scrap yards and electricity, the unexpected birth of the mini-mill. The electric arc furnace could melt old steel into new faster and cheaper than giants, threatening everything Big Steel once controlled. At first, these strange furnaces seemed niche, suited only for specialty alloys. But every disruption begins small, underestimated, and ignored. Continuous casting cut out waste. Molten steel flowed directly into billets, skipping steps that cost Big Steel precious time and money. Instead of bulky ingots that cooled and reheated, engineers now poured steel like pasta, direct from liquid fire into usable form. Scrap steel, electric arcs, and continuous casting formed a new formula. Out of it was born the unstoppable mini-mill. Unlike the giants, mini-mills needed no mines or ships. They ran lean, close to customers, agile in every sense. The economics shocked the industry. A giant mill cost $400 million. A mini-mill? Barely $60 million. Big Steel dismissed them. Rebar was low margin, low prestige, hardly worth notice from the giants sitting on their thrones. But what giants ignored became the beachhead. Rebar was just the beginning of a much larger revolution in steelmaking. At the center stood Ken Iverson of Nucor, an unlikely rebel leader who redefined what steelmaking could be. In 1965, Iverson inherited a failing conglomerate. Only a small joist maker called Vulcraft remained alive among the wreckage. When Vulcraft's supplier raised prices, Iverson made a radical choice. Nucor would stop buying steel and start making it. In 1969, Nucor's first mini-mill opened in South Carolina, small, scrappy, and a gamble that rewrote history. Iverson banned corporate luxuries, no perks, no executive dining rooms, just hard hats, shared spaces, and results that spoke louder. At Nucor, bonuses tied everyone together. When the mill thrived, workers thrived, productivity turned into shared prosperity. By the 1970s, U.S. Steel was bloated with debt and unions, while Nucor stayed lean, fast, and thriving. But Big Steel's real threat wasn't just Nucor. The global marketplace was shifting against them, fast and brutally. In 1959, 500,000 steelworkers struck for 116 days. Mills went silent, and foreign ships filled America's demand. Japan rebuilt its industry with the basic oxygen furnace, faster, cleaner, cheaper. Their steel undercut American prices by 40%. With subsidies and low wages, Japanese steel conquered markets. America's giants, slow and proud, could not close the gap. Instead of modernizing, U.S. Steel fled into chemicals, real estate, and oil, anything but fixing its aging steel mills. In 1982, U.S. Steel bought Marathon Oil, then renamed itself USX. America's iconic steelmaker was now an energy conglomerate. By the late 70s, steelworkers earned 65% above average. Families prospered, but competitiveness collapsed under soaring labor costs. For families it was stability. For companies, it was disaster. Imports surged, profits vanished, and giants bled cash. And while giants faltered, mini-mills climbed higher, moving from rebar into rods, angles, and new steel markets. For years, rebar was dismissed as low-class steel, but to the minis, it was a launching pad toward bigger victories. By the 1980s, technology from Germany arrived, compact strip production, machines that reshaped steel into thin slabs cheaply and efficiently. Thin slab casting opened the gates. Suddenly, mini-mills could produce steel sheets once protected as Big Steel's last fortress. Flat-rolled steel for cars and appliances, Big Steel's pride, was now within reach of the nimble, low-cost mini-mills. In 1989, Nucor risked $275 million on Crawfordsville, Indiana, building America's first thin slab casting plant. The gamble worked. Thin slab success meant mini-mills could finally breach the high ground, producing steel once thought untouchable. By the 1990s, mini-mills weren't just making rebar, they were shaping automotive steel, flat sheets, and more advanced products. The line between mini and integrated blurred, but only one side adapted quickly, the nimble rebels. Why did disruption succeed in America but stall in Europe and Japan? Politics played as big a role as furnaces. In America, government let failures die. In Europe, subsidies propped up the giants and froze innovation in place. In Europe, governments poured billions to keep legacy giants alive, freezing innovation and slowing the rise of mini-mills. German entrepreneur Willy Korf embraced mini-mills, but when subsidies favored rivals, his empire collapsed under brutal financial pressure. American giants like Bethlehem and Republic had no such safety net. Without subsidies, they collapsed into rusting ruins. Disruption wasn't just about furnaces. It was about choices, politics, and who was allowed to fail or survive. But as mini-mills thrived, hundreds of thousands of American workers lost jobs. The social cost of disruption was devastating. Between 1979 and 1989, steel jobs collapsed from 453,000 to just 150,000. Whole communities were gutted in a single decade. The Rust Belt became America's graveyard of industry. Cities once thriving on steel reduced to shells of their former glory. Mini-mills were efficient, but they never employed the numbers Big Steel once did. Automation sealed that fate. For steel customers, disruption meant cheaper, faster, more flexible supply. For towns, it meant empty mills and broken lives. The empire of steel collapsed not in battle, but in silence, whole towns abandoned as giants fell to the mini-mills. This is disruption theory alive. Mini-mills started at the bottom, climbing the value chain until nothing was left untouched. They never attacked head-on. They began where no one cared, cheap rebar, then climbed relentlessly into the heart of Big Steel's empire. Step by step, they improved, until the giants had nowhere left to retreat. The battlefield shifted entirely. Disruption wasn't just furnaces. It was arrogance, politics, and the unwillingness of giants to face change head-on. Global trade, labor contracts, and government policies shaped the battlefield as much as sparks and furnaces did. Big Steel drowned in its past, bloated mills, rigid unions, and decades of crushing legacy costs. Mini-mills thrived on speed and adaptability, small, lean, always ready to pivot when the market shifted. By the 1990s, 12% of American steel came from minis, and their momentum was accelerating. Today, more than 70% of American steel is produced by mini-mills, a staggering reversal of fortunes. Nucor, once a desperate gamble, is now America's largest steelmaker, the ultimate symbol of disruption fulfilled. Bethlehem, Republic, even mighty U.S. Steel, giants that once ruled now reduced to shadows of their former glory. The lesson? Disruption doesn't come from the top. It comes from overlooked edges that giants refuse to notice. Mini-mills never looked threatening. Step by step, they climbed until the industry itself was permanently reshaped. This is disruption theory: start small, improve steadily, take the market piece by piece until nothing is left to defend. But behind the theory lies arrogance, choices, and the human cost of ignoring change. Big Steel believed it was untouchable. History punishes complacency with silence and collapse. Meanwhile, lean rebels like Nucor embraced risk, flexibility, and bold bets on new technology. The mini-mill story is also a story of global trade and geopolitics. Japan's boom, Europe's subsidies, America's laissez-faire policies, each shaped the outcome in ways beyond furnaces. Disruption succeeded in America because the market forced it. Abroad, politics shielded giants that should have fallen. For every efficient mini-mill, thousands of workers lost jobs, the social cost of disruption was staggering. The Rust Belt became a graveyard of factories, even as steel itself grew cheaper and more abundant. Mini mills proved efficiency can win in business, but progress often leaves entire communities behind. Still, without them, America might not even have a steel industry today. In the end, mini mills didn't just disrupt, they saved American steel from collapse. And they remind us, innovation isn't just from Silicon Valley. Sometimes revolutions are forged in furnaces, not in code. In scrapyards, in forgotten towns, in tiny furnaces dismissed by giants. The mini mill story is about resilience, adaptability, and the power of starting small. Today, Nucor stands as proof, the underdog can win. Disruption isn't a buzzword, it reshapes industries, nations, and lives. Every bridge, every skyscraper may now stand on mini mill steel. A revolution hidden in plain sight, forged in fire. From scrap metal to skyscrapers, the journey reshaped the modern world. History teaches, no empire lasts forever, no giant is untouchable. Mini mills were small, but their impact was massive. They turned an industry upside down. Innovation can come from anywhere. Sometimes revolutions begin not with gadgets, but with scrap. In the glow of an electric arc, the future of steel was rewritten. That is how mini mills conquered big steel, a revolution of scrap, sparks, and resilience.